Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we dive into one of the most shocking and defining moments of modern history, a moment that has stunned the world, shaken global politics, and rewritten the future of Eastern Europe. Ukraine has taken back Crimea, a region that for over a decade symbolized military tension, global confrontation, and geopolitical rivalry, has now returned under Ukrainian control. The world is watching, reacting, and trying to understand how this dramatic shift happened, why it happened now, and what it truly means for the future of Europe and global security. The story of Crimea is not just a military update or another chapter in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. It is a massive geopolitical earthquake. For years, analysts believed Crimea was nearly impossible to take back. It was one of the most fortified territories in the region, heavily defended, strategically vital, and deeply woven into Russia's political narrative. But as we have seen, wars do not always follow predictions. History does not move in straight paths, and sometimes the impossible becomes reality. The moment news broke that Ukrainian forces had crossed key strategic lines inside Crimea, global reactions poured in instantly. Social media exploded, newsrooms across the world launched non-stop coverage, and major world leaders made urgent statements almost every hour. The world was not prepared for the speed and scale of what had just unfolded. Governments scrambled for intelligence updates. Defense ministries called emergency meetings. NATO and EU allies issued rapid statements of support. In Moscow, shockwaves rippled through political and military circles. In Kiev, celebrations erupted as one of the most symbolic goals of the nation was finally achieved. To understand how this moment unfolded, we need to travel back in time and look at why Crimea became such a flashpoint. Crimea has always been a region of immense importance. Its military value, its naval bases, its access to the Black Sea, and its cultural significance have made it a geopolitical treasure. When Russia took control of Crimea in 2014, it sent shockwaves through the world. It was one of the most dramatic territorial changes in Europe since World War II. For Ukraine, it was a wound that never healed. For the West, it was a challenge to the entire global order. For Russia, it became a central piece of national identity and political pride. That is why today's event is so shocking. Something once seen as irreversible has been reversed, and the entire world is reacting. So how did Ukraine manage to pull off one of the most unexpected military breakthroughs of the century? The answer lies in a mixture of strategy, timing, intelligence, pressure, and determination. Ukrainian forces spent months carrying out a series of gradual, precise, and well-coordinated operations across southern Ukraine. Instead of launching a massive frontal assault, they chose a strategy of pressure, attrition, and disruption. Day by day, Ukrainian units slowly disabled supply lines, targeted ammunition depots, isolated Russian bases, and created logistical chaos. Drones became one of the most powerful tools in their arsenal. Unmanned systems struck fuel depots, radar stations, air defense systems, naval assets, and communication centers. Slowly, Russian positions in Crimea became weaker, more isolated, and more vulnerable. Intelligence also played a massive role. Ukraine had access to satellite data, surveillance systems, and real-time battlefield information that provided a clear picture of every Russian movement. Western allies also contributed intelligence support, allowing Ukraine to predict and exploit weak points. When the moment finally arrived, Ukrainian forces moved swiftly. Precision strikes hit strategic positions simultaneously. Russian supply lines collapsed, Several Russian units chose to withdraw rather than engage. What seemed impossible for years happened in a matter of days. Crimea, heavily defended and symbolically crucial, slipped out of Russian control. The world watched it unfold almost in real time. But the military aspect is only one part of the story. The human side is just as dramatic. As Ukrainian forces moved deeper into Crimea, civilians reacted with a mixture of shock, fear, hope, and relief. Many Crimean families had been living under tension for more than a decade, uncertain about their future, caught between two nations. Now, as Ukraine returned, many civilians were overjoyed. Ukrainian flags were seen waving in multiple towns. Families rushed out to greet soldiers. Emotional reunions unfolded. For many Crimeans, it was the end of a long period of uncertainty. On the global stage, reactions were intense and immediate. The United States issued a statement calling the event a historic moment. European nations expressed support for Ukraine's sovereignty and stability. NATO officials celebrated the strategic victory, but urged caution, knowing that the situation remained incredibly fragile. China issued a carefully worded statement, urging both sides to avoid escalation. Middle Eastern nations monitored the situation closely due to its potential impact on energy markets. World markets themselves reacted instantly. Oil prices fluctuated, stock markets shifted, and analysts warned of geopolitical ripple effects. Inside Russia, however, the reaction was dramatically different. Shock, disbelief, and anger spread across political circles and social media. For years, Crimea had been presented as an unshakable triumph, a permanent part of the nation. Now, its loss created an atmosphere of uncertainty. Russian media struggled to control the narrative while citizens demanded answers. Military analysts debated what went wrong. Political commentators raised concerns about long-term implications. The government called emergency security meetings. The mood turned tense. Ukraine, meanwhile, celebrated. For the people of Ukraine, this was not just a military victory. It was a symbol of resilience, unity, and national identity. Crowds gathered in major cities, waving flags and singing national songs. Ukrainian leaders addressed the nation, calling the moment historic and dedicating the victory to soldiers who had sacrificed everything. It was a powerful, emotional moment, a turning point in a conflict that had taken countless lives and reshaped the country forever. But despite the celebration, questions remain. What happens next? Will there be negotiations? Retaliation? A new phase of conflict, stability, or uncertainty? Analysts warn that although the territory has been retaken, the political consequences are far from settled. Russia still holds significant military power. Ukraine still faces rebuilding challenges. The world is still watching, hoping for stability but aware that the story is not over. One of the most important consequences of Crimea returning to Ukraine is the shift in global perception. International observers now see Ukraine as a far more capable military force than previously imagined. The country has demonstrated strategic innovation, technological advancement, and an extraordinary level of resilience. This moment will likely reshape global alliances, defense policies, and future conflicts. Smaller nations may seek to modernize their defense strategies. Major powers will reassess their geopolitical calculations. Neutral countries will reconsider their positions. This moment also raises questions about the future of global warfare. Drones, advanced surveillance, precision weapons, cyber operations, and intelligence networks prove to be game-changing tools. Crimea has become a case study for future military planners. The The world has now witnessed how even the most fortified territories can be vulnerable when technology and strategy combine effectively. But beyond military strategy, this moment is fundamentally a human story. Families reunited, soldiers embraced by civilians, people celebrating freedom, children witnessing history, veterans honoring fallen comrades. It is a story of determination and hope. A moment where a nation proved that it could rewrite its fate, even when the world believed it was impossible. As global leaders continue to react, as analysts debate what comes next, and as the world processes this historic shift, one truth stands out above all. Ukraine has just changed the course of modern history. Crimea, once a symbol of division and tension, is now a symbol of resilience and possibility. The world is stunned, the future is uncertain, but today, history has been made. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more deep dive analysis and updates on the biggest events shaping our world. Like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And let us know in the comments what you think about this historic moment.